We're here to look at a sports car from a little British manufacturer that you may not have heard of. This is Zenos, and this is a carbon fibre revolution.
So the build starts here with the aluminium extrusion, which comes into us machined and anodised. It's prepped at this stage, ready for bonding to the rear subframe. The tub is made from 5 components. There's a front bulkhead, rear bulkhead, floor, and then 2 side panels. And the reason for making the tub from 5 components, again, is to keep that ownership cost to a minimum. So if you do have damage to the side panel, for example, there's only one part of the tub to replace.
What makes Zenos revolutionary is their use of recycled carbon fibre. This is material with 70% of the strength for around 10% of the cost, and it gives this supercar credentials, but at a hot hatch price.
Layers of carbon create a sandwich around a plastic thermoset core that operates really like thousands of I-beams like you might see in a construction project, and the overall stiffness of the product and mechanical efficiency is very, very high. As well as the Ford components that underpin the low cost of ownership in the car, one of the key things there is there are 18 separate body panels that create the whole envelope of the car, which means that if someone takes a car to a track and end up in the tyre wall, it's fewer number of panels for them to repair, which keeps the cost as low as possible. For instance, we've just had one of our customers have a slight accident into the tyre wall at Donington, replaced his front corner for him, suspension arm, which are all designed to brake sacrificially in the right place, and the full repair bill was 1,100 quid for him. So we're talking about very, very low cost of ownership, as well as a low entry price for the car in the first instance.
The basic E10 has a 2-litre 200 horsepower Ford engine and does 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds. The E10S is turbocharged and does 0 to 60 in under 4. The new E10R has a turbocharged 2.3 litre engine and will hit 60 in 3 seconds. 3! That's about as quick as a McLaren F1.
So this entry point for the E10, as we mentioned before, is £25,000, which is Golf GTI money, or about the same as McLaren will charge you to replace the carbon fibre splitter on its £1 million E1 hypercar. But McLaren's a very interesting point of reference here, because they were the Mac daddies of carbon fibre design in Formula 1. When John Watson crashed his MP4/1 at Monza in 1981, the crowd thought he was dead, but because of its carbon fibre tub, he walked away unscathed, because carbon fibre is as light and strong like nothing else. And of course, that technology then trickled down to the first carbon fibre monocoque production car, which was the McLaren F1. This was the world's fastest car for well over a decade, until the Bugatti Veyron arrived. Fabulously light, and even though it packed a 6-litre 600 horsepower V12, it barely weighed more than a tonne. But we're now reaching sort of like the third era of carbon fibre revolution. It's now trickled down to affordable, properly affordable sports cars like the E10. I mean, this is a lovely track toy, and I think Mark was saying that a lot of people that own far more exotic stuff that they're a bit scared of taking on track are buying these as pure track toys, because clearly that's what they've got in mind with sacrificial suspension parts and the replaceable body panels. I mean, I can think of one other locally sourced car, shall I say, that has very expensive clamp panels, and I know from bitter experience that crashing them on track can be rather expensive with their big fragile clamshells.
The way this car handles reminds me of a classic favourite of ours, one that perhaps inspired the team at Zenos, the Lotus Elan. The Elan has a steel backbone chassis and a tub made from fiberglass, whereas the E10 has an aluminium backbone chassis and a tub of carbon fibre. It might be inspired by the classics, but the E10 is a big leap forward. It's a very contemporary sports car.
contemporary styling, and that was actually one of the things that was on the design brief, that the styling should be contemporary and forward looking, that it should handle at least as well as a Lotus Elise, that it should be as repairable and affordable as a Caterham, and as easy to drive as an MX-5.
Well, I've got to kind of jump in there a little bit because it ticks all those other boxes, but this is nowhere near as practical as an MX-5. I mean, okay, we've got a 12-volt socket there and a handbrake, and that's about it. No doors, no roof, no windows, and actually I don't care because I want a proper British sports car, and this is a very British sports car.
It is. There's 440 components that go into making an E10, and 99% of them are UK sourced. They're based in Norfolk, they've got 22 local employees, so you don't get much more British than that, really.
No, that's true. Also, it's worth pointing out that whilst the name Zenos doesn't have much of a history, in fact, I don't think many of our viewers will even heard of Zenos before. The two guys behind it, Ansar and Mark, they're both ex-Caterham, ex-Lotus, so these are top engineers who really know their stuff, and I think they've delivered it. People at first glance might mistake this for a kind of upmarket kit car, but no, these are all factory built, beautifully finished, and Zenos will actually give you a warranty that covers the car for use on track.
I was concerned that this car wouldn't be as good as the total sum of its parts. I worried that perhaps they'd got the right bits, but in the wrong quantities or in the wrong order somehow.
All that carbon fibre and aluminium tech, I wasn't sure whether that would translate to a great road car or not, but it really does. I love it.
It's a great package, and clearly a lot of people agree with you because the order books are absolutely rammed. They're filling very fast for next year. Early 2017 there's a Roadster planned, and there's also a coupe version on the drawing board, and when that comes along I think it really will upset the sports car establishment.
It's a carbon fibre revolution.